You're listening to SM Media, the #1 place for exclusive content.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Pro Wrestling Show right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. Got a very special guest in this week's episode. I'm delighted to be joined by one of the brightest stars in the Scottish wrestling scene, Jason Reid. Jason, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you on the show. Thanks very much for coming on.
Scott, thanks very much for having me. Obviously, we've been planning this for a couple of weeks now. Finally being able to come on and chat about wrestling and life in general. So thanks for having me and looking forward to having a chat with you tonight.
Pleasure. How you been? Are you doing well?
Yes, very well, thank you. Obviously, busy period. At the moment, we're kind of just in the middle of finishing off some tapings. Obviously with ICW for the network. Before we get back to proper shows with real human beings in the crowd. So yeah, it's an exciting time at the moment, but very busy.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you've been quite lucky in the regard that you've been able to kind of wrestle the past few months without crowd. I know it's obviously difficult to do it without a crowd, but has it been good just to get back into the ring and getting kind of back to some sort of normality?
Yeah, definitely. We started these tapings probably back in October time. So, we were able to kind of do it in a safe and controlled environment, throughout the lockdown, taking regular tests, etc., doing it in blocks. So, yeah, I was obviously very lucky that I was able to wrestle throughout sort of the second lockdown for sure, when a lot of the other guys weren't able to. So, yeah, it was definitely in a privileged position. And it was great just to, kind of keep everything going and produce that content on a regular basis. But, as we just touched on, we're so close now to getting the fans back, and we're all really looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. What was we'll start off in your kind of early years. What was your kind of first kind of wrestling heroes and memories, and how did you get into the idea of wrestling?
So it kind of started for me back in sort of late primary school, early high school, which I think from hearing other people's interviews, that was apparently quite late in life. But I had a friend that I went to school with, he was a really big wrestling fan. He had all like the old tapes, WCW tapes, up his loft and stuff. A lot of DVDs as they came out. So he kind of introduced me to wrestling. Used to always go up his on, to watch the pay-per-views back in the day when it used to be on. It was like Sky One or Sky Sports back in the day. So yeah, we kind of used to watch that, and I was just hooked from there on after, to be honest. I was really drawn into what it was. It was different, and it kind of took me away from reality almost. And I never really looked back, to be honest. Like, I still watch it as much to this day, and I'd be lost without it, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Who are kind of some of your favourite wrestlers?
I had quite a few, to be honest. Shawn Michaels was definitely up there for me. Around the sort of same time period, Triple H was obviously top of his game.
Yeah.
Multiple world title runs, intercontinental title. So those two for me were up there 100%. At the time as well, Randy Orton was just kind of coming into the fold, so he was another name. So those three for sure definitely stick out, and one that's worth mentioning is William Regal.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of probably underappreciated at that time, to be honest, but he was always kind of a character that grabbed me, so to speak. So yeah, those names were definitely up there around the time that I started watching wrestling.
Brilliant. When did you first get the idea that you could do it as a job?
Well, the thing is, and I don't know if this, goes for the other guys and girls as well, but I actually had no idea that you could train to be a wrestler like in this country. And obviously it's a lot bigger now.
Yeah.
And we're only kind of going back 5-6 years ago when I started off in wrestling. But, I was doing a bit of research, and then I found out there was some schools, in Scotland, and there's one actually quite nearby, kind of 20 minutes away. So done a bit of research, joined that school, went in for a couple of training sessions, found it very, very difficult, as most do. And that's kind of where this started for me. I was kind of when you go in the ring for the first time after watching it for all those years, and it's like, you're this huge fan, and then you finally get to step into a ring yourself. It's really weird and a really surreal moment, and I think that's kind of what hooks you, and you keep going to see how far you can actually take it. And that's the thing, you don't really know how far you can take it when you start off, and that's probably the exciting thing about the journey.
Yeah, definitely. Who were the kind of early mentors you had when you get into kind of starting training?
So I started off at a school called W3L. Was there probably for a couple of years. I trained alongside Johnny Lyons at the time. He was kind of coming in. So yeah, he kind of took me under his wing, done a bit with him, and then I moved over to FPWA, which is Andy Wild's school, probably a couple of years later. And yeah, just kind of went under Andy Wild, and was almost like a sponge. Took everything in and tried to learn as much as possible. But there's so many names that that I was able to train with on a regular basis, especially at the start. Names like Danny Boy Rogers was a big name. He was really, really good. When I was coming up, and yeah, he was a great name to kind of learn from, and just build that kind of knowledge base to go on to the next sort of stage, if you like. So there was a lot of names, but those are definitely ones that are at the front of my mind.
Yeah, definitely. Do you remember your first match?
I do. The first match I ever had was actually just down the road from my house in Dunfermline. So I was training with W3L, and I knew there was a show coming up in Dunfermline, and the promoter had messaged me and kind of dropped a hint that there might be a space. If you go and put up some extra posters, do well in training, there might be a space for you on the show. So transpired kind of a week out that I was getting to be a part of a battle royal in my hometown. So naturally rounded up the troops, sold a few tickets, and they all came to watch me. So it was I think it was a 6-man battle royal. There was myself, Mike Musso, Nathan Reynolds, Blondie, Bob Barrett, World of Sport guy, Taylor Bryden. So a few names that have kind of been about. And yeah, I mean, at that point, I was just so buzzing beyond belief, because it was what you work towards. You work towards getting that first show, and you can say that you've actually wrestled on a show. So yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. I don't think I want to watch it back, but I certainly remember it anyway.
Brilliant. What was the kind of first kind of couple of years like in your career in wrestling when you said obviously starting training out? You worked in places like WrestleZone as well. What was your kind of early kind of career like?
On and off, I would say. I found it difficult to get going. I probably, I'm probably one of the first ones to admit that the attitude from me wasn't where it needed to be to really make something out of it, to progress in my career. I wasn't really taking it seriously, in all honesty, and I was, maybe getting a match once every couple of months with W3L. So yeah, there wasn't really anything for me. I don't believe I kind of wrestled or had sort of full experience until probably a couple of years ago, when I started to kind of flip that switch and make things happen. So there was the odd show that, here and there. It was obviously all family friendly shows, which were really good. Don't get me wrong, they're very, very beneficial. I was able to work and share a locker room with a lot of experienced guys, and sort of bounce things off them and learn from them as well. But yeah, for sure, the first couple of years for me, very, very stop start. Needed just something to get me going on to that next level.
Yeah, definitely. What was the kind of early kind of favourite opponents you worked with, like in your early years? Was there particular ones that stick out?
Yeah, there was Joey Legend, was the name. So he worked quite a bit with W3L. There was a match or a show that we ran down in Berwick upon Tweed. It's like on a random Thursday night in the school holidays. So obviously it was a kind of packed out show in Berwick, this tiny little social club. And yeah, I actually ended up wrestling Joe in the main event that night. He had the title at the time. So yeah, they kind of put a lot into that match, and it was probably the first kind of match where I had like the import, if you like, the guy who's been in he's obviously worked in WWE's, done tours of Japan, America, Canada, etc., etc. So yeah, that was probably the kind of first name I had, so to speak, and yeah, it was a great match. I really, really liked that. Walked away with a concussion, which is always nice. But Joe's a gentleman. Really, really love Joe. He's such a nice guy. Anytime he comes over here to the UK, he always gives 110%. Which is always appreciated. But yeah, really, really good guy. So that's a favourite for me.
Brilliant. What's the kind of best advice you've received for like kind of meeting with kind of pros so far? Is there any particular bits of advice that have stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably like a couple of bits and pieces I could hand pluck, but the best advice I've probably ever had doesn't necessarily come from someone in wrestling, but I always kind of try and surround myself with people who are obviously like-minded, they're motivated, they work hard, etc. They're successful. The best advice I've ever received is you have to work harder than everyone else. You can't have excuses. You have to be dialed in 24/7. You look at that scene at the moment. How many guys and girls are there that are probably similar age groups, doing similar stuff, all with the same goal? There must be hundreds and thousands of people across the world that have the same goal to get to the same place. So you have to do things that those people aren't willing to do. And that's the best advice. And I always had that advice around me, but I didn't really take it seriously in the first few years. It took that switch of mindset for me to really understand what that actually meant. And it doesn't just mean go to training and work hard. It means get up in the morning, go to the gym, prep your meals, invest in yourself, invest in people around you to give you advice. It's a collective, and for me, in terms of advice, that's the best advice I've ever had. Work hard and work hard than everyone else.
Yeah, definitely. What's some of your kind of favourite venues to work around Scotland?
Favourite venues. So top of the list for me, probably the Garage in Glasgow is a really, really good venue. And probably because we haven't been there in 18 months or something. Yeah. So really looking forward to get back. I mean, it's always one of those atmospheres that's just jumping. You've got that rowdy ICW over 18s crowd. So that's a top venue for me. The Jam House in Edinburgh for Discovery. The Corn Exchange for Discovery is also one worth throwing in the hat. These are just really good venues that hold a lot of sort of sentimental value, if you like, and they always have amazing shows and amazing crowds run by amazing companies. So those three for sure are definitely up there for me.
Brilliant. When did you first hear there was interest in ICW?
When did that? So I actually got a phone call from Andy Wilde. So obviously me and Andy are obviously very close outside the wrestling, and he was kind of a mainstay in ICW. And I'd heard that they were running a show in Aberdeen, and obviously I'd done quite a bit of work in Aberdeen with WrestleZone probably 12 months prior to that. So I'd heard that they were looking for someone to come on the show in Aberdeen. So I got a phone call from Andy Wilde, and he says, "Listen, there's an opportunity on this show in Aberdeen next weekend. They want you, basically." So I was over the moon. That was one of my main goals, to get to ICW, probably biggest promotion in Europe. And yeah, I was absolutely buzzing. So made the debut at ICW in Aberdeen. Didn't actually hear back from them after that, probably for about 6 months later, where they then contacted me again. And kind of gave me the plans. They're like, "This is what we want to do." They gave us the whole kind of angle with Coach. I spoke to Mark Dallas, one of the producers there as well, and just kind of talked through everything that they were looking for when they wanted to get me in. And yeah, we just kind of took it from there. And to be honest, I don't really think we've looked back since. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I still think we're only getting started. So
yeah, definitely.
Watch this space, as they say.
How impressed have you been with kind of Mark Dallas and the way the company's doing? Like, obviously.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you only need to look at the fact that they are on the WWE network.
Yeah.
They have a weekly show on the network. They're also on Peacock TV in America, and that in itself is a huge deal because not a lot of guys over here actually realise the context of that. So I think at the time that we signed the deal, WWE had about 5 million subscribers, give or take. Peacock TV has about 20 million subscribers. So it's huge. And that's available on demand every single week. So and that's testament to the hard work of guys like Mark Dallas who had this vision, back in early 2000s, and everyone told him he was daft, and he was like, yeah, well, just watch me, and he went and done it, and he surrounded himself with a team, guys like Scott Reed, Adam Carell, the TV crew. Just guys like that, and it is really, really testament to their hard work. Guys like Duncan as well backstage. Probably a lot of people won't know his name, but he's responsible for a lot of the movement forward. And yeah, you know what, they deserve it. They've put a lot into it, and I'm pleased for them that it has that platform now across the world.
Yeah, definitely. The Lionheart League, how much of a privilege was that to be involved in?
Yeah, huge privilege, for myself and obviously all the guys involved as well. Lionheart was a huge name in UK wrestling, probably in European wrestling, if not all over the world, in all honesty. We just seen the impact that he had on everyone, when he sadly lost his life. The sort of outpouring of emotion from across the globe just was testament to what a good person he was, and how much he actually done for the business, how much he took it forward, especially in the time where there was that kind of slump. He was the one at the forefront that took it back up and got that boom and that peak. So yeah, it was a huge honor to be part of that. And yeah, I really wanted to make that special because I wanted to do him proud, because he'd given so much to wrestling prior to that. So it was only right that we gave our all and put on a show that would make him proud.
Yeah, definitely. Who's been some of the kind of best people you've worked with in ICW, and who you kind of looking forward to working with down the line?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, everyone I've kind of stepped in the ring with ICW, I've been lucky in that they've all been amazing. Even working alongside Coach, he's been there and done it. He's went to the top 3 times with kind of 3 different guys and watched them become champion. The other ones have went on and signed with WWE. So even Coach has got that experience, which has been amazing. But then guys like BT Gunn, DCT, again, sort of former champions in the business, and I've been able to work with them, weeks, months at a time, getting that experience with them. And these are guys that have been at the top of their game for 10 plus years, so they're definitely up there for me, and it's all about kind of moving forward because there's so many names as well in an ICW that we could come into contact with. Joe Coffey for one. If he ever comes back to ICW, which I'm sure he will further down the line, he's a name. The story writes itself. There's so many. Give me a name and we'll do it.
Brilliant. What was the COVID like at first when it first happened? Did it kind of set you back a lot in your training and things like
that? Yeah, it did. It was strange for everyone, and obviously it was a really difficult time for everyone, included. Everything was shut. It was strange. Gyms are closed. There's no shows, no wrestling. You can't work out really unless it's in the house or you go out for a walk once a day.
Mm-hmm.
So it was obviously difficult. It was a challenge, but it was about trying to adapt and overcome that challenge. It goes back to kind of talking about doing things that the other 99.9% of people don't really want to do. And it's hard, don't get me wrong. There's days like that in lockdown where you're kind of like, well, what is the point? We're not going to have a show for the next 6 months. But then all of a sudden, we get this phone call and say, look, we're able to record this in a special setting, and we need you in 3 weeks' time. So it's just about being ready all the time.
Yeah.
You have to have that in your mind that no matter what happens, you have to be ready. because if you're not, someone else will be, and they'll take your place.
Yeah, definitely. What's the kind of plans and ambitions for the future? Where do you see yourself going in the next couple of years?
WWE is
Right.
probably the short answer. That's the main goal for me, is to make it to WWE and or NXT UK. That is the primary goal for me. Along the way, also to capture gold in ICW. I think we're closer than ever. So we just need to keep pushing and make sure we can achieve that goal. And then if we achieve the first goal in the process of that, then happy days. It's a win-win.
Yeah, definitely. We see the photo of Alfredo Morelos behind you. What are your kind of favourite memories following Rangers?
Oh man, I could sit here and spiel off a huge list, and then on the other hand, I could give you an alternative list, which is depressing. So there's loads. I mean, for me, I was lucky that I've my granddad kind of runs a supporters bus. So even from a very young age, I was introduced to that lifestyle of going to games home and away every single weekend, and we're talking kind of from primary one, literally home and away. So there's probably not a lot of grounds in the country that I haven't been to. In terms of memories that kind of crop out, probably Helicopter Sunday when they won the title at Easter Road, the UEFA Cup final in 2008. And then kind of coming back from the lower leagues and then winning the title only a few months ago, in sort of I guess a fashion that's we probably couldn't even imagine a few years prior. So yeah, I've been lucky to be around for a lot of good memories, but we hope, fingers crossed, that there's a lot more to come.
Yeah, definitely. Are you all right closing some quick fire questions, Jason?
Yeah, of course.
Brilliant. Who would you say would be your dream match? Who would be your dream opponent of your rest of your career?
This could be anyone, anywhere.
Anyone, anywhere.
Triple H, without doubt. Triple H would be the be all and end all. I could retire happy after that if I get a match with Triple H. That's me done. Don't care where it is, as long as I get in the ring with Triple H, then that'll do for me.
Brilliant. Best wrestler in the world right now?
Oh, that's a toughie. That is a tough question. If we look at sort of all aspects of professional wrestling, for me, the person on top of their game the most right now is Roman Reigns.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
If we look at the whole sort of the aspect of it, not just kind of isolating, technical wrestling, the overall picture for me, Roman Reigns, that man is untouchable at the moment. He's just so good in every area of his game. I am looking forward to the match at SummerSlam next weekend, though. Big match, John. He may pull off a little upset, I don't know, but I think Roman Reigns keeps the championship title for a good while.
Yeah, definitely. Favourite match you've ever had?
Favourite match? Oh, that's another tough quick fire question you've got here. Favourite match? DCT Steel Cage ICW Bard in December was the first kind of real, I guess, big match. And I think for the few months kind of prior, I was always kind of knocking at the door, and I always had confidence in myself that if ICW were to put me in that position in that type of match, that I'd be able to run with it and knock out the park. And then I think I was able to do that at least somewhat. So for me, that's favourite match so far. But it may be knocked off the number one position over the next couple of weeks. We will see. No spoilers.
Brilliant. If you were to pick 4 people you would start a faction with, who would they be?
Quoft. Another good question. Faction. We are going to start off with Triple H, because Triple H number one. We're going to get a bit of staunchness in here. We're going to go for Drew McIntyre.
Okay.
So that's 2. Who's the third? The third, we're going to go going to go Randy Orton.
Okay.
Randy Orton. And the fourth, is the fourth me, or do we get another fourth that's someone else?
Four plus you. We'll go with 5.
Fourth, right, so 5. And John Cena.
Okay.
How about that for a faction?
That would be
Who's going to stop that faction, mate? I don't know if anyone would.
Definitely. Favourite current Rangers player?
The main man behind me has to be. I just love him. I love Alfredo. He's just a firecracker, isn't he? You could actually lift and drop him into an ICW ring, and he wouldn't look out of place at all. So yeah, and you know what? See, outside of football, he's actually a really, really nice. He does so much in terms of charitable work, and it probably goes unnoticed. But yeah, I mean, he donates a lot of money to kind of his hometown. He does a lot of charity work to help out and stuff. So yeah, for me, the Buffalo is the favourite Rangers player, and I hope he scores on Thursday night. I hope this is our good omen.
Brilliant. Favourite all-time Rangers player?
Stefan Klos. It's actually his birthday today. He was the number 1 player for me kind of growing up. So I actually played football before I transitioned into wrestling, and I was a goalkeeper.
Right.
So that's probably why, you know, I grew up and he was kind of the mainstay number 1 goalkeeper, and what a goalie he was as well.
Yeah.
So he was, to be honest, he was probably the reason why I started, you know, getting into football and then becoming a goalkeeper later on, was because of him, you know, his superb performances. So yeah, all time for me, definitely him.
Brilliant. Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure to be on the show. Thanks very much for coming on. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and yeah, I've enjoyed it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Best of luck for the future.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, mate.